Hello everyone, my name is Anastasia Mandang and I'm from batch 18 and my last digit of student number is 112. And today's topic is about the impact of sexual harassment to victim. Good morning to all my fellow classmates and lecturer, Mrs. Ratu. I'm very honored and humbled to have this opportunity to speak in front of everyone about the issue of sexual harassment, and in this case to be more specific about the impact of sexual harassment to victim that is often abandoned by the society. Dear my classmates and lecturer, today I have 3 key points to make. First, the meaning of sexual harassment. Second, the impact of sexual harassment to victim. And the last one is how to support victim of sexual harassment. First, sexual harassment is all forms of behavior or attention that lead to sexual things, are carried out or based on the desires of one party only and are not expected by the other party, in this case the target or victim, so as to cause various reactions that affect the victims in many life aspects. Victim might appear to be sensitive more than usual to certain things or everything, being grumpy, and the environment feels depressing. The psychological impact of sexual harassment can appear in the form of depression, panic attacks, anger, feelings of loneliness, hurting the perpetrator, feelings of helplessness, and suicide. Sexual harassment includes, but it is not limited to, forcing sexual activity, degrading statements about sexual orientation and sexuality, requests for sexual acts that the perpetrators likes, words of behavior that have sexual connotation, all of which can be categorized as sexual harassment. Every action and word can be conveyed directly and implicitly. Second, sexual harassment is nothing new, but it also doesn't mean it should be normalized or suppressed. In the majority of cases of violence, victims keep their mouths shut because of the social judgment that will be accepted if they voice it. The process of resolution and healing is increasingly difficult when there is denial, distrust, and the worst is blaming the victim. There are many reasons why victims have difficulty identifying when receiving sexual harassment, such as confusion, shame to be born, blame by others, blaming the victims for their clothes, and so on. Instead of focusing on solving problems, people tend to be blamed victims of sexual harassment. Even more from the perspective of the victim, most of whom were in a state of shock when it happened. With such circumstances, the victim also had very minimal evidence of what had happened. This is also one of the obstacles when reporting and gaining trust, because it is considered that the victim cannot provide valid evidence. The behavior received by the victim, which tends to be negative, can lead to feelings of depression, and the victim gains the perspective that the victim must be left as judged to her or him. Sexual harassment focuses on how the abuser of power or authority, even if the perpetrator tries to persuade, seduce, or convince. In various cases of sexual harassment that are brought under the law, they must stop in the middle of the process because of the perpetrator has a stronger or socially advantageous position compared to the victim. From here, it can be seen that perpetrator or the victim could be male or female. In cases of sexual harassment, the perpetrators tend not to care about the feelings of the victims and only focus on their own satisfaction. Therefore, attention and commitment from a healthy environment or institution is needed to provide encouragement for victims of sexual harassment so that they can be protected from perpetrators or suspects and avoid other harassment due to reporting. And beside all that, This is everyone's homework to solve the crime of sexual harassment that can happen anywhere and to anyone. Early education about sex should not be avoided so that this can be a solid preventive measure for the birth of victims of sexual harassment. And I think that's all for my speech. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kesha Yusuf. I'm a college student majoring in English Literature at Samratulangi University. My name is 2009 110 2010. In this opportunity, I would like to talk about the misperception of sexual harassment victims' clothes. Tank top, short pants, and other revealing and body shaping clothes of sexual harassment victims always got blamed if there is a sexual harassment. Because people thought that clothing is the biggest cause of the rapist or suspect to do sexual harassment. That is why sometimes we will hear some unpleasant statements like, the victim of sexual harassment must have been wearing revealing clothes. That is why we as women should wear covered clothes, so our presence does not invite people to sexualize our body. If there is a girl who likes to wear revealing clothes, some people will warn her to not wearing those clothes because it can make herself to be a target for sexual harassment. When there is a sexual harassment, one of the most frequent questions will toward to the victim's clothes. The idea that clothes can cause or prevent sexual harassment boils down to the core belief that if the victims look differently, they would not have been attacked. It's a myth that makes it easy to suggest that sexual harassment only happens to people who bring it on themselves by making bad choices. A federal commission on crime or violence reported that most convicted rapists do not even remember what their victims were wearing at the time of the attack. And also, there is an examination held in Thailand about victims' clothes when they got attacked. Most of them are not revealing clothes or body shaping clothes, but in first, those are appropriate, normal, and covered clothes. That shows that the victim's clothes cannot be fully blamed and should not be blamed. The irony, many anti-rape campaigns on campuses, schools, and other public areas stress the idea that the only way you can be safe from sexual assault is to be careful what you wear. There's an assumption that sexual predators are an escapable part of life, and the onus is on us to avoid becoming an attractive target. It should not be like that, because instead of avoid becoming an attractive target, people must avoid taking an action of their thoughts in their mind or control themselves to not do shameful and harmful actions to other people. To make it more clear, I would like all of us to think together. If we see an apple that has color or shape not just like ordinary apple, and then we get weird or disgusting about it, then we throw it out. Is it the apple fault or our fault? Of course, it's not apple fault because it just being itself. So it's our fault? Yes, because we take an action based on our thoughts. We throw it out, right? But if we just felt weird and disgusting and just let it be, it is okay because that is how our brain reacts to something. To sum up what I have been stated before, clothes cannot be blamed for sexual harassment because the perpetrator perpetrator does not even remember the victim's clothes when they attack them. So the only one in control of whether a sexual harassment is attempt in perpetrator, not the victims, even their clothes. We are human. We have a noble mind and humanity. We are special people. We are so much precious and beautiful than other creatures. So just be what we are created and do not blame the victims or their clothes, but blame the perpetrator. Thank you. That is all of my speech. Thank you for your attention.
On this day, who doesn't know about catcalling? Catcalling is considered a common thing because it is experienced by many people in everyday life, especially for women. So today, in this video, I'm Febrina Saruni, will talk about catcalling is not a normal thing. So, catcalling is one of the many types of sexual harassment that occurs on the street, so it is often referred to as street harassment. As we know, street harassment is defined as an unwanted interaction in a public space that usually occurs between strangers who is motivated by a person's perception of gender, sexual orientation, or expression of gender and causes the survivor to feel annoyed, angry, embarrassed, and even afraid. So catcalling behavior can be verbal or even non-verbal. In verbally, catcalling is usually done by throwing a whistle aimed at teasing or making comments about the appearance of women. For example, like, "Hello sweetie, where you going? Come sit with us." Or they be going like, "Oh, there's a pretty girl. You look so sexy." Which is often conveyed by the predators, and that's so disgusting. In non-verbal expression, such as glance or certain body gestures, are also frequently experienced by survivors. The predators are also looked at the survivors with intimidating eyes that constantly made the survivors feel uncomfortable to the point of disgust. So, for predators, catcalling is intended to create fear in women. Most women then assume that places in public spaces, such as parks or public transportation, are less safe to visit. So there is a sense of hesitation to come to certain places alone, especially when they might become easy targets for catcallers. They also choose to keep a safe distance from strangers in order to avoid unwanted things. Even so, women may still experience catcalling and ended up with victim blaming, who is blames how they looks. This is also a statement that women who are the object of violence and sexual harassment are often the ones who are blamed. Therefore, catcalling is called a nightmare for every woman because they are still blamed despite the fact that they are the ones being harassed. Women who are survivors of catcalling can be psychology effect, both short-term or even long-term. So in short-term effect are only experienced for a moment or a few days after the incident, such as the emergence of shame, humiliation, or anger, which is usually has an impact on the sleep cycle, or they can experiencing insomnia and reduce appetite or loss of appetite. continue to assume that the man may be catcalling her. So, for women who experience catcalling or other forms of sexual harassment, we don't need to be afraid to act and report it to the authorities. We can also use social media to increase public awareness that catcalling that is considered normal can actually have a negative impact on a person's psychology condition. So remind yourself that every woman is valuable without expectation, including you. So that's all for me. Hope that's helped you and thank you.
Hello, my name is Nurfadlalaya, and I would like to talk about sexual harassment that experienced by women. It is important to remember sexual violence is not new items. As a crime of defiance, dealing, adultery, rape, and pornography has been known as one form of sexual violence. Interestingly, the annual record of the Komnas Perempuan on violence against women decreased by 31.5% compared to 2019. The reason the closeness of the victim with the perpetrators. The victim only complained to the family or silence. Mastering literacy of this technology and the online service of complaints its victim was not ready. Visible violence against women, including sexual violence, is very closely related to the perpetrator's power. Relation of the victim. The perpetrator freely ventured his sexual ambition by utilizing the position and authority, while the victim without power, and the power follows the wishes of the perpetrators. Very clearly visible. Handling sexual violence must be special. This ministerial regulation may be more progressive in terms of prevention and prevention. Women often experience sexual abuse. Sexual harassment is all kinds of behavioral forms that lead to sexual things, like satisfying sexual needs. Harassment is carried out by one party and is not who is victim, expected by the reason who is a victim, causing a negative reaction such as hate, angry, shy, sad, offended, and so on. Sexual harassment can lead to sexual violence if the actions taken by sexual abuse perpetrators have caused a former or solace. Then the action is casual violence. Sexual harassment that is often experienced by women is calling catcalling. Catcalling is a like sexual harassment that is usually done non-verbally. A kind of ridicule or comment that is sexually directly to a woman who is passing, usually occurs in a public place. Meanwhile, some people do not realize or may not know that catcalling is included from sexual abuse. Most men who catcalling to women are not caused by the women's clothing. Keep in mind, sexual violence is not limited to the offenders. Sociocultural conditions can also be triggers. The absence of regulations is an anonymity condition for people who uphold to the nationalization. Following the definition of Robert K. Merton, the anonymity condition appears when not a culture with the structure so that sexual violence occur. Logically, prevention and handling sexual violence need legislation policies. So, women should be protected and the government should make sexual violence need legislation and policies to make women always keep.
Hello, my name is Rex Grigori Mandang, and my student number is 206. I am batch 2018 from uh, English department. This video is is for our final project group, talking about uh, public sp- about our text in course public speaking, and our topic is talking about gender equality. Gender equality is a common thing that is often forgotten. People often forget the importance of social equality in the midst of their life. Sometimes a man is too high with his dignity and power, so that he forgot his equality with women. And women also sometimes always feel dissatisfied with what they have and are always jealous of what they have. They don't have from the other people themselves, because that's what makes the level of bullying increase, such as bullying in school or public place, degrading women's dignity, and when judging other people's gender based on the way they dress. As we know, Indonesia's people it's likes to speak up about their opinion, and the bunch of them is like a judgment, the judge about gender, about people, like half of Indonesian people, it's like to speak about the Thailand genderism. As we know, in Thailand is in there they have much of gender, they have, and it's totally legal in there. But in Indonesian, we totally just have two. It's man and woman, and as the biggest country of in Asian, and of course as the main point of the economic and the politic in Asian, Indonesians, it's also include about this problem, like why the people of us uh, likes to hate the different things in there, like in Indonesian we learn about religion, about to respect to each other, but to outside our country like Thailand, they not to do that. But as we know, Indonesian we have the highest tolerance, and of course we glad about that. But the disappointed about that, every year of we pass away, the Indonesian people has not learned yet about to respect to each other, to the different things in outside of their social thing in their head. That's also is the concern of government too, and the public public figure to find out the best way to influence the public, how uh, to influence people in outside there, how for respect the the different things in out beside our country though. So yeah, the whole thing is uh, we can respect to the different, if, if in the our country or it's in not on country. I think it's talking about that, and it's all about that. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Janet Fiona. Well, in this opportunity, I will discuss about some form of bullying, how to deal with bullying, and what should we do together to prevent bullying. Okay, first I will discuss about the definition of bullying. Do you understand the meaning of bullying? Bullying is common experience shared by many children and adolescents in school. Bullying behavior can be physical or verbal traits. Bullying consists of direct behavior such as ridicule, threaten, criticize, being rude by one or more students to the victim or other children. Besides, the bullying behavior can also be indirect, for example, by isolating or someone deliberately. This tends consider distinct. Both direct and indirect bullying is basically a form of bullying as physical or psychological intimidation that occurs repeatedly and continuously to form a patterns of violence. The forms of bullying among others: 1. Physical bullying, like pulling hair, hitting, or poking. The second, bullying is emotional, like reject, terrorizing, isolating, and any discrimination based on race, disability, and ethnicity. The third, verbal bullying, like provide the name calling, taunting, and gossiping. The fourth, sexual bullying, like exhibitionism, committed fornication, and sexual abuse. Just look around you. A lot of bullying activities that have taken place at school, at home, and sometimes also can occur anywhere. Okay, we go on the next topic. The second topic is how we do prevent bullying among teenagers in Indonesia. Did you ever see the student bros? Student bros is one of form of bullying others. How to cope with bullying activity? There are ways. 1. Follow religious activities at school. Religious activity is beneficial for moral improvement because the activities teach a lot of God things. By doing religion activities means approaching in God. The second, follow the extracurricular activities at school such as OSIS, Boy Scout, and Paski Braka. The third, avoid negative activities and choose good friends. Due to the good, it is not possible we hate the bullying activities. Well, I think bullying activities can take place because the school is only concerned with learning activities but lacking in any moral lesson. Moral is very important for today's students because in this day and age a lot of students in moral decline. Therefore, common we keep ourselves together and each also invite our friends and avoid bullying activities because such acts only harm us, harm our learning time, and hurt a lot of other things.
Hello, I'm Gabriel Sion, and I'm here to talk about bullying. So, bullying is an issue across the world right now. We might not knowing it or even realize, but the person who is sitting next to us, or yourself to, or either yourself to, could be getting bullied. They might not seem like they are hurting, but inside they could be. Anybody that intentionally tries to hurt someone's feelings is bullying. It doesn't matter if you just stare at them as they walk by or laugh by something they say in front of people. If it hurt their feeling, then you are bullying them. There is some bullying in an emotional way that they didn't realize. It could be like discrimination based on disability, ethnicity, religion, and even race too. And sometimes people slip the words bullying and turn it into jokes so they think it's so funny and they're loving on it. But I think everyone has a different mindset, mentally or even emotion, and sometimes the jokes can hurt them. Bullying doesn't have to be pushing someone around or even punching them. There are many cases in another way too, just like cyberbullying. It often happens in social media. Cyberbullying is bullying with the use of digital technologies. It can take place on social media, messaging platforms, gaming platforms, and mobile phones. It is repeated behavior, injuring or shaming those who are targets. For example, like spreading lies, or posting embarrassing photos of someone on social medias, sending hurtful messages, bad comments, toxic comments, threats via messaging platforms, impersonating someone and sending mean messages to the other on their behalf. And it always happens right now. There is one that always happens in the friends circles, and it is verbal bullying. It's including gossips, taunting, and provide name calling. It's not always something physical that bullies someone. It could be something emotional. For this example, is when you hang out with your friends, and you shout to one of them and telling that she or he is skinny or fat. And maybe sometimes you will laugh at it because you think that's funny, but no, it can hurt their feelings and it can be worse. It can be the reason for them to get depressed and can lead them into suicide too. Almost 70% of suicide cases are caused by bullying, and that's so dangerous. And from this, I think, and I can assume that bullying can kill anyone in this world. And last but not least, are sexual bullying. Sexualized bullying is a behavior, physical or non-physical, where sexuality or gender is used as weapon against another. It is behavior which degrades someone, singles someone out, using sexual language, gesture, or violence, and victimizing someone for their appearance. Sexual bullying is also pressure to act promiscuously and act the way that make others uncomfortable. And for the example, it's like abusive, sexualized name calling and insults. This includes like using homophobic language and insult towards the others. Next is spreading rumors of sexual nature online in person, unwelcome looks, and comment about someone's appearance of looks, either face to face or behind their backs. And one is inappropriate and uninviting touching without consent. Next, the last one is pressuring someone to do something that they do not want to do, using emotional blackmail, such as "you will do this if you love me," or comparing previous encounters to make someone feel glad to do something sexual. So I think that is my speech about that, and that's it. Thank you.